Kansas City area. You can also notice that the students are wearing white coats. One thing that's so very important to feel the part, you want to know what it feels like to wear a white coat, what it feels like to be in these spaces. And she definitely allowed for those opportunities for students who participated in the Summer Scholars Program. This program now is called the Summer Scholars Program, and it's increased. Instead of the 2 to 4 weeks that it previously was, it's now 6 weeks for students participating, includes high school juniors, high school seniors, and college freshmen. Also, what's happened with the program is in addition to the summer component, it also has a longitudinal component throughout the academic year to check in with students to make sure they're on track to graduating, but also on track with their various endeavors in preparing for their next steps after they finish high school or their freshman year of college. Shannon was raised in Milo, Oklahoma on the family farm, and he served in the United States Army for 2 years. He earned his Bachelor's of Science in medical technology at the University of Missouri, Kansas City, and also his master's degree from Central Michigan University in health care administration. Also very active with the Baptist Church and the Kiwanis Club. Some things that they enjoyed doing in addition to spending time with family and friends was to go traveling on trips, and they would travel all around the world, and they also enjoyed golfing. At the last lectureship, when we had our kind of happy hour moment just to come together before the lecture, Dr. Shannon was sharing with me how she enjoyed golfing, and I said, hey, I have golf clubs. But then I realized my golf clubs were not in Kansas City, so I would not be able to go golfing with her. But she said, I'd be more than happy to come and sit on the golf course. So this is my agenda for today, and some of the things we'll be discussing are my objectives, identity, the importance of today's discussion, barriers experienced by UIM healthcare professionals, and how we can mitigate them through mentoring, coaching, sponsorship, and connectors, some of those challenges to those relationships, but also strategies underrepresented medicine healthcare professionals. I always like to think about a relationship agreement and also commitment to action. So my objectives is that after completing the participants will be able to discuss the importance of mentorship, coaching, sponsorship, and connectors for underrepresented in medicine healthcare professionals, and also help to think about how can we formulate support relationships for effective mentoring, coaching, and sponsorship. So I always like to ground conversations talking about my identity because I think it's so very important that we all people. You can see what my outward identity is, but also it's some of those things that we have to talk about and discuss that we need to know about other people. So professionally identify as a leader, a child advocate, a general academic pediatrician, a mentor, a sponsor, a fellowship director, associate dean of DEI, and also assistant professor of pediatrics. But identify as a Christian, a wife, a bonus and a fur mother, a grandmother, a daughter, a sister or aunt, a niece, a cousin, a godmother, an abstainer, an abolitionist, being a line sister, a proud HBCU graduate, a jet setter, a Black woman, and a wine enthusiast. So something in my identity probably connects with someone. So why is it important that we need to talk about these different identities when we speak about academic medicine, in particular for UIM healthcare professionals? The first thing that I want to share, there's not a representation of UIM healthcare professionals in academic medicine. And I'm just going to pause for us to just kind of think about that. There are not enough representing as underrepresented medicine in healthcare. In 1910, Abraham Flexner came out with the Flexner Report. And this report actually standard of how we look at medical education going from 2 to 4 years, what people should be taught in terms of the curriculum, as well as what research should look like. But there were a lot of things in that 364 report that were inappropriate, things that were talking about racist and sexist comments against African American and women physicians. From that report, out of the 7 African historically Black medical schools that were available at that time, 5 of them closed related to the information provided in that report. So that right there already situation where you've decreased your workforce or creating or increasing that workforce. That has since changed since then, but it did create that foundation for people to look at what does medical education look like. Looking at what's the recruitment and the retention, the academic advancement, and the thriving of UIM healthcare professionals. We need diverse persons to generation of healthcare professionals. But as we all know, if you don't see it, it's almost hard to know, can I also be this? Can I be this thing that I see? Can I be a doctor? Can I be a dentist? Can I be a pharmacist? Can I be a physician assistant? Can I be an anesthesiology assistant? I think it's very important that we have awareness and recognition about the unique challenges in academic medicine that are faced by marginalized and minoritized identities. So some of the things that I'm going to be discussing today are just some examples, and it's not the exhaustive list, of how can we mitigate that sure that people who are underrepresented in medicine will want to stay in academic medicine. This is through connection, and so that's why I wanted to talk about mentorship, coaching, sponsorship, and connectors. Most recently, we had Dr. Uche Blackstock give grand rounds at Children's Mercy Kansas City on yesterday. And one of the things that she talked about is why are Black doctors leaving positions in academic medicine. And really for her, she was saying it was kind of her goodbye of why I've been dealing with being in academic medicine, being a woman, and all the things that she's experienced. But what was very interesting is a lot of the things that she was experiencing were things that many of us who are underrepresented in medicine have experienced before. As you'll notice in this picture, things that it shows is in many academic institutions, they have the hallway of what I like to call distinguished, seasoned white gentlemen. But when you walk through the hallways, if you're not a seasoned white gentleman, put yourself in that space. Can you see yourself being a physician, being a nurse, being a pharmacist, being any part of the healthcare team if you don't see yourself in that space? And therefore, it's not inclusive for me to be here. But why it's also important for us to discuss this is to ensure that this toddler could become the physician that's here before you today. I also put this up here because I do have family who's watching virtually, and my older brother loves to tell the story that I knew I wanted to be a pediatrician when I was 4 years old in preschool. That's not actually correct, but I'll tell the story that he chooses. It was 4th grade at 10 years old, but I digress. So what are some of those barriers and challenges experienced by healthcare professionals in academic medicine? Some of those things that people experience is limited to no support related to academic advancement. Sometimes there's limited protected time to do those scholarly activities that you are getting your work out there, that you're disseminating your work. Sometimes the opportunities for leadership or leadership training and development, mentorship and sponsorship as well. Sometimes there's that feeling where you are the only cases, whether it's in a clinical setting, a division, or a department. It could be the expectation that this person has to represent all things about diversity, equity, and so sometimes people don't realize that we are not monoliths. That's why I also start conversations with my identity, because being a Black woman is just one of my many identities. And we have to recognize with people, having conversations, communicating with people, you're going to find something that you have in common with them. Having the expectation also in terms of burdening identities to serve on committees or teams as a diverse person, you can't be the diversity voice for everything that's happening and everything that's going on. And some people might call it the minority tax, the Black and brown, or the diversity dividend, where you're giving time, efforts, and energies related to this work, but wanting to make sure do people understand its importance and also respect it, giving it time and financial resources. There's the gratitude tax, but I want to say that the gratitude tax also occurs with a lot of other identities from the perspective of the gratitude tax is this feeling of there are people who to get in my current position, and now I feel that I want to help others in that same token as well. Additional barriers and challenges is that for students or in medical school, sometimes feeling tasked to participate in various activities that they recognize, you know what, my colleagues aren't doing those same type of tasks. I want to support it, I want to help. They're not asked to participate on various committees or participate in various activities. Sometimes feeling like things are very, very performative, or people are checking a box to say that, oh, we've now done this, so we can say, okay. Sometimes with certain identities feeling like they're charged with fixing problems that they didn't create. So saying, how is it that I'm tasked with doing this, fixing this problem, compared to why don't we work collaboratively in how we look at problems? And also feeling like they need to be the model minority, because they feel like if I'm the first one to walk through this door, I need to make sure people coming behind me that they're not going to say, well, I remember this person and these are some of the things that they did. So wanting to make sure that they set the best example possible. And the situation that happens often is that awkward, difficult, uncomfortable conversation, you hear silence. And I think that silence is the worst thing, because then you almost feel like, do you care? Hear what happened, and also feeling like that person or people might be complicit with the things that are happening in those situations. So again, going back, representation matters in medicine, not only for delivering high quality medical care to patients, but also for the healthcare professionals caring for patients. So, on diversity, equity, inclusion, I cannot forget to put up my infographic that I love. First, we look at the top left, talking about equality, where everything's equal, but we can see it's not equal because everyone can't see. Equity, making sure that people have what they need, but liberation, saying we don't need to have this fence here, but inclusion is you can participate in this situation here. So going into a mentor references Greek mythology when Odysseus was entrusted his son Telemachus with mentor while he was fighting in the Trojan War. A mentor can be someone who is an advisor, a peer, a supporter, or it can be a teacher. Now, people traditionally say that a mentor is someone who is more senior faculty, providing expertise to junior faculty. But I think about a lot that I had, and it wasn't necessarily in academic medicine. Some of my mentors were people out in the community or in civic organizations that I was involved in, because they were trying to see me and wanting to see me progress on and move forward. A lot of people say, if you want to find a good mentor, find someone who's busy, because they look at that person as being very actively involved, very engaged, and very productive doing, but also that person is extremely busy with many things that they're involved in. Mentoring can be for a reason, for a season, or it can be longitudinal over many years, but also recognizing that sometimes one cannot mentor about everything that a person might potentially need. But some of those examples of those mentoring relationships can include education or training, providing feedback about manuscripts, research, and career promotion. And what makes a good mentoring relationship is that it's a reciprocal agreement that both people are actively involved and engaged in the relationship. Listening happening on both ends. So that means that people aren't listening to be able to respond or answer, but really listening to what the person is saying to them. Having honest and effective communication, but also mutual respect and shared values. What's most important also is having trust. Sometimes mentors or mentees might share things that are very personal or very private, and wanting to make sure that people know that it's stays within that space, unless there's concerns about the things that people are sharing where you know, I got to get you some help or I have to give you some extra support. This is a little bit busy, but I wanted to show a lot of the mentors that have been in my life, whether, no matter their identities, they've helped me through my academic career. Some of these faces you might also see and notice, familiar to you all as well, but I think it's so very important. And also I realized it was an exhaustive list, because I'm thinking and looking at here that there's a lot of other mentors that, oh gosh, I forgot to put this person and that person. But it also me to recognize in becoming the physician that I am today, that there were so many people that were actively engaged and actively involved in pouring positive spirit into me. And that's one of the things that I think is so very important. All people who are underrepresented in healthcare, to make sure that there's positive things that we're pouring into people, because you don't recognize sometimes some of those words that you're saying are really going to resonate with some member, not what it is that you did, but also more so how you made them feel. This right here are some of my mentees, excuse me. And one of the things that I recognized when I was creating this slide is that all of my mentees look like they're all women. They are all women. However, I do have mentees that are also identified. I just had a hard time when I tell people that's not my gift. So I was having a hard time putting them onto the slide. But one of the things that happens very common with UIM healthcare professionals is they gravitate to people who look like them, or people who they feel they can identify with. I think what's so very amazing to me is that I get the joy out of seeing the wonderful work that my mentors are doing, and they'll come back to me and say, thank you so much for mentoring me. Thank you so much for this. And I said, it's not me that you need to thank. Thank you for allowing me to be part of your journey and the things that you're doing. When I first moved to Kansas City in 2018, I was trying to find my sense of community, my sense of belonging. And I'm so very thankful for the Students Training Health and Research Program. Through this longitudinal mentorship program, I was able to connect not only with students, but with residents, with fellows, and also with faculty members represented in medicine, and really working towards finding my people and the people that I can lean on and trust. And so that was very helpful and very supportive. And it's so wonderful now when you see the students in these pictures, some of them have already graduated. Some of them are residents, and some of them are even faculty attending. So it's wonderful to see that progression. Now, when I think about coaching, this looks at someone coaching skill or answering a question. A coach can be a person that's coaching multiple people at one time, and it's usually to try to provide direction or instruction, to provide reflection. So really it's to look at what skills do they have within them, but helping them to pull out those skills. So right here, I want to be very clear. This is family, and I don't want to say they're just to me, because my family is so many things to me, but I know that I couldn't be in these places and spaces without them serving as coaches, without my family serving as my cheerleader and my biggest. I also have here Dr. Denise Dowd. She was one of the people who served as my faculty coach, but she was an amazing person because she said, let's look within you, what's happening with you. You can figure out how can you make certain things happen and occur. I'm sorry, I'm trying to make sure I'm going in the right direction. Looking at sponsors. Sponsors are going to be committed to the development of programs and of people. They use their influence to allow visibility for programs, but also for mentees. So they're basically, with my influence, I want to make sure I get you out there. How can I have you participate in this conversation? How can I have you participate in this manuscript or this presentation? They put their reputation on the line, but they say, no, I know this person can do a great job. You need to tap this person to participate. And a lot of times, what's great about sponsors is that they're talking you up in a positive way amongst people. Truly what a sponsor does is making sure they're pushing you out in the forefront for people to know of the great work that you're doing. And a lot of times people feel that they are selfless individuals. I put this up here because I wanted to make sure that people know that every medical school needs to have a person like a Dr. Shannon. My Dr. Shannon when I was in medical school was Dr. On the right. She was the person who recruited me to medical school, but not only recruited me, she helped to retain me in the medical school and also helped to ensure that I graduated. I did go through challenges with the licensure exams before graduating from medical school. And so when our students say, I'm having this difficulty, I tell them, I truly understand what you're going through. I didn't have pass-fail. So when you see and you see that you missed it by just 1 point, that really only equates to about a few questions that you missed. It doesn't tell that you have a great bedside manner. It doesn't tell that you're going to be great to your patients. It's the person that gave me the encouragement and the support to say, what is it that you need? What do you need? And I told her, I need a place to study. And without skipping a beat, she gave me the keys. Here's the office. Come into the office and so that way you can study, you can be successful. Those are some of the things that Dr. Reaner Shannon did for students, not just being in the space, but also advocating for them. And Dr. Carol McMahon was definitely an advocate for students. I also put this up here of additional sponsors. To the left is Dr. Deepak Kamat. He has been a person who has sponsored me to increasing the writing that I'm doing. Dr. Caudria Lewis has sponsored me related to things about let's do a presentation together. And also Dr. Gregory Connors, who's helped to sponsor things that I'm doing to academic promotion. One of the things I share with people is that sometimes your sponsors, your mentors, your coaches, those people may not look like you, but that's a good thing from the perspective of getting other perspectives from other people. So connectors are the people that I like to think of as they're those people who network. They're naturally extroverted. If you all can't tell, I'm an extrovert. So that's going to be the person that seems to know almost everybody in the room, but they can connect everyone together. So they might recognize, wait a second, you do research about this. This person does research. You talk. That's that person that has that masterful skill of networking and doing collaborations. But they're interested in the pathways to attract people, to recruit them, to retain them, all phases of career development. But that person gets that joy out of saying, I was able to help assist with that connecting piece. So I put up this slide in terms of some of my Dr. Michael Weaver, who was the first African-American graduate of our School of Medicine here. I feel like he knows pretty much everybody in the greater Kansas City area because everywhere I turn around, he's able to, oh, Dr. Smith, you need to meet this. I need to connect you to that person. And it's been wonderful because there's been many connections and many friends that I've made just from the connections that he's shared and the work that he's doing to really work to increase the number of underrepresented medicine students, not only considering medicine or dentistry or healthcare professions, but actually going into those things. The middle picture is my graduation from medical. I have to say that I had the blessing and the privilege that I had 2 physicians in my family and a close family friend who were able to support me in going to medical school. But as you all know, if you come from a family of elders tell you to do something, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, that's all you have to say. You don't question it. So they said, you need to do summer research. Yes, sir. Here's the application, fill it out and get it in on time. Those are the types of things that my connectors were doing for me. And the far right is a picture of Black women in medicine. It's a informal group that started here in Kansas City, actually at where some of the Black women who are in medicine said, you know, we need to create community. We need a space where we can come together. And it kind of expanded to over 100 women who are doing work about diversity, equity, inclusion, who are researchers, psychologists, nurse practitioners, residents, fellows, early career physicians, professors, retired physicians, and coming together in this space. At the veterinarian, we have a veterinarian in the group too. But coming together in this space, it allows women to have space to just talk about what are the things that are great going on, but also what are some of those challenges that we're facing and how can we help some of those challenges. So again, thinking about, but there are some challenges that can occur with some of those relationships with mentoring, coaching, and sponsorship. This could be that there are types of generational or ethnic or gender type of differences. Sometimes the ideals and goals do not match or they don't align. Sometimes there could be limited of organizational or institutional support, for the relationship, meaning that people don't have protected time. Oh, it's very important that you mentor this person, but you still need to do your clinical duties and responsibilities. Sometimes it could be the challenge of setting boundaries as it relates to a digital footprint, such as online presence or looking at what people are doing with social media. Sometimes it could be the challenge of have those uncomfortable conversations. It can be very difficult as a mentee when you're talking to your mentor and you need to have that difficult, challenging conversation and almost feeling like the person just or that they're not listening to what's going on and happening. Thinking about toxic behaviors that could happen in those relationships, such as authorship issues, or also inappropriately credentialing work. But also there could be recognitions that with some identities, they might have limited access to strong mentors, or the challenge I think that happens for a lot of underrepresented in medicine healthcare professionals, that they feel like they're over. People say, your mentor. And I always ask people when they say that to me, well, what will you be mentoring me on? Because I didn't really ask for a mentor, but can you share a little bit more with me about that? making sure why are we giving the ask or what is the ask. And also, again, burdening identities with being the diversity voice. So how can we try to mitigate some of that, but also create some really great strategies about how do we support underrepresented medicine healthcare professionals in academic medicine? Some of the things are just being very clear about what the relationship is. They ask. So to me, oh, Dr. Smith, can you be my mentor? What is it that you need me to mentor you about? Because I want to make sure that I can be the best mentor for you if I'm going to mentor you, but also asking what is the that you need, how often do you need for us to talk? Because if someone says, I need to talk to you once a week and it needs to be for an hour, I might have to respectfully decline, but say, let me see if I can find someone that can help. One thing that I think is so very important is when people are reaching out looking for mentors and coaches and for those different identities to help support the work they're doing, to know that it's okay if someone respectfully tell right there, I may not have the time to do it because I want you to get the best experience possible, and that's okay. You can also ask them, can you recommend people that I can speak to or that I can talk to? Also, reach out to people that you might be interested in working with and just saying hello through an email, a phone call, or having that wing person who introduces you to other people. Making sure there's targeted institutions and also having a culture shift where we're embracing the diversity of all people coming into the spaces and all perspectives. So having affinity organizations that build community and belonging, coaches, faculty development programs, but also having leadership training and also mentorship programs. And also we have to keep in mind that mentorship doesn't have to be from the top down, but it also can be as well too. Making sure that there's financial support, there's time, and there's person power to do these various commitments. It's fine for a lot of people participating in committees, but do they have the time to vote? Are they giving the financial resources to support that work? Being involved in professional organizations, including regional, national, and international conferences, and attending them, those are great for that networking to happen. I know for myself within my career, I've gone to multiple conferences, and when I look back on some of the people that I now collaborate with, I realized, oh wow, when did we meet? And we'll say, well, it was at a conference. But we met at a conference. But it's wonderful to see that we have still remained friends and we still remain actively involved and engaged. And also looking at the American Association of Colleges, they have a lot of leadership development programs, including seminars for early and mid-career minority and women faculty members, as well as things for medical school deans. When I talk about relationship agreement, please note I'm not talking about a formal contract where someone has to sign on the line, it has to be notarized. I'm also talking about that people are on the same page of what this looks like in terms of that relationship or agreement in terms of mentoring or sponsorship. Making clear, having a clear discussion outlining what are those goals for the relationship. What's the time commitment? Are we meeting for 30 minutes? Are we meeting for 45 minutes? And respecting the time on both ends. But also looking at what are some of those determining factors when we determine that the relationships. I prefer not to do it because you never know when you're going to need someone or when they're going to need you as well too. So making sure you've said that the relationship's completed, but closing that loop so that way come back to each other. You go back to that mentor saying, you know, I have this opportunity. What are your thoughts about it? Or a mentor going to a mentee, you know, I'm not really good with technology. Can you show me how to get on GroupMe? I say that because my mentees helped me to learn how to get onto GroupMe and to create group text messages and chats. So I'm very thankful to my mentees for doing that. So these are my references. And I thank you all so very much for your time, for your support in being in this space. I want to thank Ms. Pamela Shannon for coming in. We so thank you all for being here. To everyone who's online, thank you so much for watching virtually as we thank you so much for coming in here. And are there any questions or anything that I can give you all? And I apologize, a little bit warm up here. Thank you all so much. Are there any questions? And I'm certain if we have any questions online.
Wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
We're very blessed to have you here at the university. So you mentioned a number of the challenges. What do you think is the challenge and how did you overcome it?
I think my greatest challenge was really trying to find those places and spaces where I could thrive. Part of the reason to Kansas City was because in the job that I was in, I was working at community health centers, and there was a lot of work that I wanted to do, but my supervisor said, that's really great. You need to go see patients. We paid you to see patients. So when you hear all the time, you're paid to see patients, then I realized if I can't change the people around me, I need to change the people around me. And when I came here, the different I wanted to be involved in, people said, that's great. Tell me how I need to support you. What do you need to be supported? And it kind of shocked me at first because I was used to always hearing no. So when you hear the yes, it's a different feeling because now you're thinking the sky's the limit. But now what's happening is people have had to kind of calm me down because I'm getting so many yeses that they say, okay, that's great. We don't want you stretched too thin because we need to keep you here and keep you around. So one of the things that I have to be mindful of too is when I say yes to things, what is my passion for being involved in it? Will it bring me joy? And that's, I think, something that's very important. One thing that I want to share with everyone is at the end of my emails, and everyone says that I put this on here, be safe. And everyone's shaking their head, you know, same thing. Have a great day or enjoy the sunshine. Stay warm while enjoying the sunshine, and please remember to self-nurture. The reason why I put self-nurture is we all talk about but self-nurturing is really taking care of your spirit. And I think it's so important that we take care of our spirit and who we are, because if we're not well, we can't be well for everyone else. So I share with people every day I take time to self-nurture me, because if I don't have time in the rest of the day because I'm giving it to other people, it's okay because I took care of me first and I'm good, and now I can give more to other people and to help support others too. That that's not just a phrase, it's actually something that I live by as well too. Thank you for that question. Yes, thank you so much.
Dr. Smith, enjoyed your lecture. It was extremely cogent and very clear on how to be a coach, connector, and such. One of the things I think we're all probably attracted to this university is because we're in the community and this metropolitan area. I mean, we have a great responsibility as far as care, as far as also nurturing and providing leadership that will help this metro area to be even better in the future. What do you think? What are your thoughts as far as we can be better as far as attracting, talent, URM students and faculty and such for the future?
Things that about, and I know that this is currently happening, is how do we have ourselves branded as an institution? This is a great place to be. This isn't a flyover state. A lot of people think, I'm that area to get to California. I'm going to fly over that area to get to the East Coast. So letting people know, land, we have a new airport coming February 28th, land, come and see what things are like here. But I think it's important to tell people of all the great things that we're doing. So making sure that with our branding that we kind of become, I think of it like the Nike swoosh. When you see that swoosh, you know it's Nike. So making sure that when people see, they know what get from us and that there's no question about that. I think the other part too is letting people know what are some of those things that people connect to. So again, talking to people about their identity. For me, I'm a foodie, so there's a lot of great places for me to find great food here. So that was amazing for me. Another thing was the cost of living. It's cheaper to live here for me compared to being on the East Coast or the West. Really looking at what are the ways that we can connect people to encourage them not only to come, but to also to stay. So we want to make sure that we find out what are those things that connect people to a place to have them want to stay. Now, yes, we're definitely working on increasing the number of diverse persons that are in our faculty, because that's the other part of it too, which is you want trainees to come in, but they also want to make sure themselves in these places and spaces, or that they know where people are. But it's so very important that we also have the allies and the champions supporting this type of work and representation as well too. Thank you. Hello. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. Thanks, Dr. Moncure, for that question, because I'm going to amplify maybe part of what Dr. Weaver also asked. So you've talked about the importance of the strategic yes when opportunities come your way. Can you talk a little bit more about the graceful no and how and when you utilize that?
So thank you for Dr. Jackson. When I give the graceful no, what I think about is, I look at, will this bring me joy? And sometimes the things that you say yes to, it may not be anything other than that you feel passionate about, want to participate in, and that's why you're saying yes to it. But with the graceful no, what I will think about is, will this bring me joy? Or will it feel like it's a headache? Or if I feel very uncomfortable putting everything together, for example, an application. If I'm feeling that uncomfortable, I'm figuring this is probably not the best thing for me. But what I try to do with the graceful no is I respectfully decline, but please let me know when other opportunities become available. Because what I want to let the person know is I'm still interested in what you're doing, and I think what you're doing is great, but I just don't have the capacity to do it right now. Maybe when my capacity frees up, that I do want to still participate. Because I think it's also important that people know that other step, which is please keep me in mind. Because when you tell people that, we'll look out and say, well, how's your schedule looking now? Are you available to participate in this? Are you available to participate in that? So I think it's very important to have the graceful no, because you never know who you're going to need, but more importantly, need you as well too. And you don't want to burn any of those bridges. You want to still have that availability for people to still reach out to you. Thank you for that question.
So I know we've had conversations about, feeling obligated or generation that, you go to work, you don't really take days off and things like that. And you spoke about, the Black and brown tax, and, when you come into a place, you are one of very few, for example, Black women. And so when other younger Black women need help or mentoring, you feel that, obligation to do it, as well as tied into the gratitude tax. So what types of strategies do you implement to make sure that you're in the same sense to honor the people who gave to us and to make sure that you're pulling people up with you, but also making sure that take care of yourself, like how you talked about self-care, but what type of strategies do you use to determine when you determine to say no?
The strategy, especially when we look at kind of mentoring people, when people reach out to say, can you help support me with this, or can you support that, is really looking at what's the time commitment. If it's going to be a large time I just know I can't carry, I might have to respectfully say, I might have to decline that, but are there any questions I can answer for you? Or do you want to touch base with me from time to time so we can talk? So maybe we're not in a formal about something in terms of I'm your mentor, you're my mentee, but looking at, okay, are there other ways that I can still support the work that you're doing? Because I always tell people I love to support from behind where I can see. My husband will tell you he's here today, which is sometimes I am up till all hours of the night doing things. And he said, I'm going to bed, I'll catch you later. So really trying to make sure that what's going to be that time in terms of being involved in things. But I think also what's important is that setting that example of we can't tell young women in medicine or underrepresented medicine health professionals, time for yourself, and we're not taking time for ourselves. We can't tell people you need to self-nurture, and we're not self-nurturing ourselves. So we really have to make sure that if we're going to talk the talk, we have to walk the walk as well too. That all those things that we're putting out there, that we're doing those same things as well too. I've always felt the need to make sure that I'm empowering people who look like me. So it's very important to me to make sure that your health is most important. Your family is most important, because when it's all said and done, those are the people who help to uplift you, to help support you. So that it's very important to make sure that you let people know or find those things that bring you joy, or what are those things that are most important in your life, to make sure that we're honoring those things as well too. Sometimes you have to volunteer people, and I know I've had to do this with you. Take a moment, take that time. The work's going to still be here. We're going to get it done. But sometimes it does take other people to say, and it's okay to take a break. And I think it's very hard for us because we have to have the work ethic of you work, and oh, guess what? You still keep working, and not saying, let's pause for a second. Let's make sure we're taking care of ourselves.
So to kind of go on that, do you ever struggle with feeling, I guess, guilty knowing that the people that came before us, they didn't have, so to speak, the luxury of opportunities of self-nurturing? They had to be in situations where that had to take a back seat in order to push progress forward, feel obligated to continue in the same way. How do you struggle with, if you do ever feel that guilt, and if so, how do you struggle with rectifying?
I think one of the biggest things that I say now, multiple people have said to me whenever something was going on, I would say, oh, I apologize for this. And they said, don't apologize, because you were doing what you're supposed to do. So instead I ask for people for grace, and not asking for grace, excuse me, but I more so tell people, thank you for giving grace. Because if you're asking people for grace, you're basically determining that they get if you get grace. So I thank people for giving grace, and I thank people for that patience. And also I look within myself and say, I do feel bad for a moment, but I also recognize all these other things over here too. So letting that person know, I might not be able to be here for you for this particular activity, but I still want to support the things that you're doing. So within myself, being innocent, and I'm like, let me have the clarity and discernment to know, is this where I'm supposed to be? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? My mother often tells me, in order to have a testimony, you have to have a test. Sometimes the test that I'm going through isn't because it's going to be for me, but it's going to be for me to have a testimony to tell someone else. I always think about when I went through challenges with my boards when I was in medical, and I was always thinking, why me, why me? And my mother's like, but why not you? Why not you? Maybe it's going to be your testimony to help other people. So I try to tell students, you're going to be okay. You will be called doctor one day. So how I rectify, really just kind of looking within and really thinking about, how is this going to help support this person, but also knowing it's okay for me to have boundaries, because I can't be all things if I'm not also being good to me too. Thank you. I hope that answers your question. Any additional questions? Oh, we do have a question in the chat. So just a thumbs up. So thank you so much, Gabe. I appreciate one of our wonderful students.
One other hand raised in the chat as well.
Oh, yes. not certain, how do I just stop sharing the screen?
I think they can unmute themselves and ask.
If you'd like to unmute yourself to ask your question, Dr.
It was
Dr. Dries? Mm-hmm.
We might need to turn up the volume.
As I share with you all, technology is not my gift.
then she can put her back too, if we can't get her on verbally.
Oh, there's Dr. Dries.
I'll put it in the.
We can hear you, Dr. Dries.
Oh, I just want to thank you for the wonderful tribute that you gave to the Shannons today. I think that they were such pioneers in the work that they did and left such a wonderful legacy that you're carrying on. And I know that they would both, if they could be here, would be very proud of the work that you're doing to make mentoring more available and to continue to expand the work that they do. So thank you very much for that. My one question is, if we're engaged in a limited number of mentoring and coaching relationships, all and our lives have influence on others. Is there one thing that you think we can all do day in, day out that make our environment more inclusive?
I think one of the things is first just starting off with saying hello to people. When I went to college, growing up in the DC metro area and the New York metro area, and then going down to college, I spoke to everyone. So if you made eye contact with someone, you said hello. So that just became part of what I naturally did. If you make eye contact, you say hello. Or sometimes if you ask someone, how are you? Be genuine about how are you doing to really hear what that is, because maybe you were the first person to ask this person, how are you doing today? So I think it's very important that we connect with people, and for some people, large group. So maybe it is having those one-on-one moments with people to interact and to connect with them, because I think we need to do more of that connecting with other people. Some people are better, and some people tell me, you know what, I'm better one-on-one with other people because I feel a little bit overwhelmed when it's too many people. One person even said, I'm not really good at chit chat. So I was like, okay, well, how can we work being very good at chit chat? Those conversations. But I think it's so very important that we do more just connecting individually with people, because as everyone connects with someone, that's how we can kind of move things forward. When I graduated from medical school, my cousin said, I was thanking him for all of his help and support, and he said, you don't have to thank me, you now need to pay it forward. Create your own pathway of other students that you're to not only get into medical school, to get out of medical school, and to be called physician. So from that, just that charge that my cousin gave me, I looked at how can I do that within my own pathway. But if everyone took the time to just create their own pathway of just one person that they're mentoring, that they're sponsoring, there would be a lot of support for everyone from that perspective.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for that question. Are there any other questions that I can answer? Thank you all so much for being in this space. Thank you to everyone who is online. I would definitely also want to thank my family who is here online as well watching. So thank you all so much, family on the East Coast. I love you. I would like you all still have some time. We would like to dedicate and unveil the portrait of Dr. Reaner Shannon that's going to be on the first floor of our medical school. So if y'all can stick around for just a few moments, we're just going to go around there right now. But thank you all so much for coming.
Recording stopped.
Yep.
Hey, Dr. Tyler Smith.